Okay, this is Chef Jeff, and I'm back again. We're looking at a platter here with three different fishes on it. Two are the same, actually. They're two cod. Now, one is a Pacific cod, and the other one is Atlantic cod. What you'll notice is the one here, it's on my right, is a Pacific cod. It is frozen. I've thawed it. And as you can see, it's a fairly meaty fish. It's thick. It's fairly firm. It will, as you notice this here, the lines in it, may be hard to tell in this video, but when you go to cook it, it's going to be a fairly large flake that comes apart in this. So they're fairly large, they're not small. This is a Atlantic cod. This is fresh, never frozen. As you can see, there's two different areas. It's cut off the same fish. This is the tail section, and it's quite thin as you run down the tail. It's not a thick cut. And even as you move up into the middle part or the loin part of this fish, it's not that large of a fish coming out of shallower water. It's a younger fish. It's not real thick. But again, the pieces, as you can see on top here, are much wider. They're much bigger flake. This, the haddock, is again Atlantic haddock. This is sustainably caught. And you'll notice one difference. The skin is left on. It's almost always left on haddock because it's a little more delicate than cod in terms of the flake is much smaller. And when it cooks, most people, it's one of the noticeable parts that will discern them. This being the tail cut is the same as with the cod. It's a thinner cut. And then as you move into this is like a captain's cut up near the front of the loin section. And it's thicker and a little more meatiness to it. One of the differences that many people find between these two fish is that haddock has a tendency to be a little bit drier and it flakes very easily, very small and very flaky. Cod is a bit moister and plumper and doesn't flake as much as its pieces break out. These flakes are big and thick. And that does make a difference in terms of what you're using it and what you want to do with it. As far as cooking methods, haddock with the skin on definitely can be grilled. The skin helps keep it together. You'd start it with the flesh side down and then put it onto the skin. It'll crisp the skin up. The skin is edible. Some people do, some people don't. As it cooks, the skin will loosen a bit and you'll be able to pull the fish off of it lightly. The area next to the skin will have a little bit of the fat from the fish, and haddock will have a little bit more fat than cod. As far as nutrients and vitamins and minerals to them, there are some differences. Haddock is interesting. It's high in vitamin A, vitamin B12, B6, and B3. Cod, on the other hand, is high in vitamin C, E, D, B1, and B5. And when it comes to phosphorus and choline, high in haddock, and magnesium and potassium high in cod. So they do have their differences between them. One interesting note is, both being seafood, haddock has a much higher sodium content to it, almost 5 times the amount that's found in cod. It's still not a large amount, but it is a more higher count in the haddock. As you go through taste, as I said, this is mild, almost a clean taste, many people will say. And in the haddock, some people, because it does have a little more fat to it, some people will say it's a little stronger. I don't know as I would call it fishy. It's just a little bit richer in taste. As you go through in cooking, as I said, they both bake well. They both are fried and fry well, although with the skin, it's a little easier to handle in some methods, especially pan frying or grilling, as I said, because it will hold the fish together. They are both fish that tend to become delicate when they're cooked. As far as mercury content, which is always a concern with all seafood, neither one of them is very high in it. They are both in the low range. They're not something that anyone worries about. And in particular, the deep water fish is definitely not a problem. I actually prefer many times the frozen over the fresh. And one of my reasons is that a lot of fresh, especially cod or haddock, if it comes in off the coastal plain areas, it's in shallow water. And when it's in shallow water, they do get some parasites in them. They get some what they call nematodes in that burrow into their belly and into the flesh a little bit. They are put through a light candle process on a bed that looks at it, and they are pulled out. As it cooks, you don't know it's there. It's not harmful to you or anything, but it is part of what is in all fish, especially if they come from shallower water. So it is an interesting point, but these are interchangeable in most recipes. The key being that if you were going to do it in any kind of a bigger sauce or a stew of some sort, the haddock would be a little better just because the skin would help keep it in its shape and in its form better. So as we move forward, when we come back, I'm going to show you a couple techniques of how to cook it. Cooking wise, both of these will cook in about 10 minutes, give or take a couple of minutes in that. Um, the cod here that's a little thicker, maybe a little bit more, but with all fish, it's important to set a time that's on the low end and check it and then move forward from there, because once it's done, you need to pull it, because if it's overcooked, they definitely become dry and chewy. So I look forward to coming back and telling you about how to cook them.